So, hello everyone. We are the group 10 Two View Review. So, today we will be talking about significance of two-eyed seeing on sustainability and preservation of wildlife health. So, starting off, fish and wildlife management. So, what is that? That is basically the practice of conserving and regulating wildlife populations and their habitats to ensure ecological balance and sustainability. This involves monitoring species health, managing natural resources, protecting endangered species, and controlling invasive species. Other methods that are used within this field include habitat restoration, breeding programs, wildlife tracking, and public education. So the whole goal is to protect wildlife for future generations while balancing human needs and environmental conservation. Moving along to Western sciences. So, what is that? So, basically, it's a knowledge system based on empirical evidence, observation, and logical reasoning. It emphasizes objective measurement, experimentation, and replicable results. So, basically, knowledge comes from measurable observations, it's free from personal bias, studying systems by analyzing their parts, and exploring cause and effect relationships. So, this approach basically propelled advancement in technology, medicine, and our understanding of the natural world, offering solutions to global challenges. Next off, we have Indigenous knowledge. So, this one is about a comprehensive understanding of the world rooted in the experiences, traditions, and cultural practices of Indigenous people, being passed down through oral traditions, ceremonies, and stories. So, this encompasses ecological understandings, where we have sustainable land and resource management, social and cultural practices, which is like governance, family structures, and community well being, and spiritual connections where we have a deep respect and reciprocity with the land, animals, and plants. The key values of it are interconnectedness, which is recognizing that all elements in our life is part of a larger system, respect and reciprocity, which we're honoring the natural world and giving back to it, balance and sustainability, where we're promoting harmony and protecting resources for future generations. So why do we have to need Indigenous knowledge is because it gives us environmental stewardship, where it proves sustainable practices such as controlled burns and biodiversity conservation, providing an insight for modern challenges like today we have climate change and habitat loss. The second one, cultural and societal contribution, where it enriches and broadens the societal values through unique perspectives on governance, community, and identity. And last but not least, we have medicinal wisdom, where it offers a natural healing practice that can complement our modern healthcare today. So, Indigenous knowledge is vital for addressing contemporary challenges in sustainability, cultural preservation, and in our public health. So, it offers a path forward that respects both the past and the future.
Now that we've taken a look at exactly in terms of what the world is doing right now in terms of fish and wildlife management, as well as individually Indigenous science as well as Western science, let's take a look at how all these come together and incorporate to form two-eyed seeing. Over the years, by incorporating two-eyed seeing within wildlife health preservation and management, there have been major milestones and triumphs, one of which is the participatory etymology, which looks at integrating Inuit science and knowledge with scientific veterinary practices. This approach has proven to be especially effective in areas such as Arctic Canada, where Inuit knowledge has been used to assess and manage the health of muskox populations. And Inuit harvester insights into population dynamics, health indicators, and even environmental changes have complemented scientific techniques, allowing for a more comprehensive understanding of wildlife health issues. Along with this, and next slide, please. Another major area or milestone that the world has seen is co-management of natural resources in areas in countries such as Canada and Australia. In Canada, the Inuit and First Nations collaborate with government agencies to manage natural resources such as fisheries and caribou populations. In such a sense, in this scenario, the use of two-eyed seeing has enabled these communities to integrate traditional migration knowledge and breeding cycles with scientific models, ensuring the sustainable quotas that support ecological balance and community livelihoods are there. Australia has also seen similar success in land and wildfire management, where Indigenous fire management techniques such as ancient practices of controlled burning have been integrated into national fire prevention strategies to reduce wildlife risks and promote biodiversity. Next slide, please. Along with national management of natural resources, another area where there's been major triumphs and improvements is marine conservation in New Zealand, as well as climate change adaptation in the Pacific Islands. In New Zealand, the Maori concept of Katai Kitanga, which looks at guardianship and conservation, has informed New Zealand's marine conservation policies. And by incorporating Indigenous ecological knowledge with marine science, New Zealand has established marine protected areas, also known as MPAs, that align with environmental sustainability goals and cultural practices. Tuaitsing is also seen contributing to climate adaptation strategies worldwide, specifically in the Pacific Islands. Indigenous knowledge about historical weather patterns and ecological indicators is helping scientists better understand and prepare for climate variability and extreme events. And this collaboration has supported the development of more resilient agricultural practices and community-based adaptation plans, which empower these communities that are within these areas to be able to respond more effectively to various climate-induced impacts, such as rising sea levels or changing rainfall patterns. Next slide, please.
Now that we've talked about some of the triumphs, let's look at what some of the barriers are. The first major barrier is availability. Not all of the indigenous knowledge can be openly shared for a few reasons, such as it being locations being important spiritually and culturally to indigenous populations, as well as potentially being hunting spots, which, if got shared openly, could lead to overexploitation of that area. Second major barrier, knowledge loss due to colonialism, which was seen in a paper by Ahmed et al. In 2022, where the majority of the indigenous youths in the James Bay region had never actually been out to trap or hunt beavers or dismantle their dams, despite that being a traditional practice for that area. And this had probably been lost to time and colonialism. The next two, willingness and balance, kind of go hand in hand, because for two-eyed seeing to be functional, each side needs to be willing to accept the other knowledge system at equal weight. And unfortunately, this doesn't always happen, usually with Western science not valuing indigenous knowledge. And unfortunately, not all of the information from either system will translate well to the other, as indigenous knowledge is much more descriptive, whereas Western science is empirical data-driven. And balance is important because when you actually apply it, you need to make sure each side is applied equally and one side isn't just dominating the other. Next slide.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. Now we're going to be talking about next steps and opportunities. So the first topic is enhancing community involvement. The first thing about it being Indigenous leadership and decision making. A key opportunity for enhancing community involvement is ensuring that Indigenous leaders have full control over traditional um, how their traditional knowledge is applied in wildlife management. By including Indigenous leaders in decision making, we ensure that management plans not only reflect scientific findings but also align to cultural values and priorities of Indigenous people. This leadership is crucial for creating wildlife management strategies that respects both science and tradition. Community-led initiative for sustainability. When Indigenous communities lead wildlife management efforts, the outcomes are more likely to benefit both local livelihoods and ecological sustainability. Community-led initiatives ensure that community knowledge is applied in a way that supports local need while contributing to a broader conservation goal. This balance of cultural and scientific approaches is essential for long-term success. Next slide. Um, Integrating knowledge system. First thing about that is enhancing decision making through combined knowledges. When indigenous and scientific knowledge are integrated, decision making in wildlife management becomes more robust. Indigenous perspective becomes provides historical context and lived experience. Indigenous per- um, never mind. While scientific data provides more empirical evidence. Together, these knowledge systems supports more informed and effective conservation strategies that are adaptable to both cultural and environmental needs. Holistic understanding through integration. A key opportunity in fish and wildlife management is integrating indigenous knowledge with scientific data. By combining scientific analysis with indigenous perspective on animal behavior and environmental changes, we gain a more comprehensive understanding of the ecosystem. This holistic approach creates management plans that considers both cultural insight and scientific findings, leading to better conservation outcomes. Next slide.
Furthermore, we do have some other steps that integrate through two-eyed seeing. For example, we have policy integration that we can put in where co-management strategies using two-eyed seeing to ensure that both knowledge systems guide wildlife conservation efforts. We got education and awareness of two-eyed seeing where you can incorporate the principles of two-eyed seeing in school curriculum and workshops highlighting both the role of two-eyed seeing in sustainability and wildlife health. Another one, community-led research using two-eyed seeing, where wildlife health studies combining traditional ecological knowledge and Western science to track animal population. Data sharing agreement with two-eyed seeing framework, where we can joint use of traditional migration knowledge and satellite tracking to protect species from overexploitation. Capacity building with the two-eyed seeing, where we can have teaching Indigenous youth traditional conservation methods alongside scientific techniques through two-eyed seeing. Strengthening the relationship through two-eyed seeing, where we can co-develop programs that respect and integrate Indigenous values and Western methodologies in wildlife monitoring. Global recognition of two-eyed seeing, we can have a sharing successful two-eyed seeing projects in forums like the United Nations to inspire global adoption. Monitoring and feedback within two-eyed seeing, where you can regularly review conservation projects for alignments with both Indigenous and Western values. But as individuals, what we can do is we can think about how we as individuals can incorporate two-eyed seeing into your own work or daily life, considering the ways that how we can honor and integrate diverse perspectives, fostering a more holistic approach and understanding into problem solving.
And so to summarize throughout this presentation, some of the things that we've looked at is some of the sustainable efforts that can be taken into place by combining two-eyed seeing to work towards managing and sustaining wildlife health and managing it overall. Some of the key topics that we looked at today were fish and wildlife management and the importance of it, which basically looks at conservation of species and habitats using various monitoring and restoration methods, and how this has been quite successful by integration of two-eyed seeing various methods, as we had seen in the presentation throughout, specifically in areas for population conservation, for example, muskox health or various eradications. We also looked at various challenges that are currently present, such as where the key one being protecting Indigenous knowledge and ensuring equitable integration with Western science, and also looked at next steps that could be taken in order to build respectful relationships and enhance community involvement in decision-making, both on an individual level, but also collaborative together as a community. Next slide, please. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. We hope that through this, you were able to understand our perspective and learn more about the importance of two-eyed seeing on sustainability and preservation of wildlife health. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I was taken back to that table we sat at with M&R a few years ago. Any thoughts?
Yes, well done presentation. And also, the spots you cited up north, it probably was more crucial for them to get into some sort of management where they have, because people depend more largely on that food source, the fish and the wildlife up there, so they're really dependent on that sort of stuff. Whereas sometimes those types of management they try to dominate and say this is what's happening and disregarding the people that have lived with those animals for thousands and thousands of years and interacted with them. So, yeah, very good. Well done.